Hello and welcome to today's content, which will be basically my rating scoring mindset. As I said, it was due to be coming out soon, and I finally decided to do it. And I tried to make it not too long, but it might still be long. But yeah, this is mostly just gonna be showing what people should and what I see as a perspective in terms of the unit scoring. And this is just basically understanding how to look at units from a different perspective slash mindset slash how I take it as it is. And yeah, it might not be the way for everyone, but this is how I do it specifically. And yeah, without further ado, let's begin. So for our first slide, it's going to be the mindset and reasoning for polls. And what this is going to be focusing on mostly is, in terms of my perspective, it's going to be cost efficiency, meta, flexibility and usage, and etc. There is a lot of different variations. I can't really talk about all of them because it would take literally forever and I would use so much brain power that my brain would explode trying to explain everything. So yeah, I tried to narrow it down a little bit more to this. For example, what I mean on cost efficiency, however, 100 cost units only have one hard cost a day without Visio resets. Additionally, the unit also has a lower percentage to be pulled on the average of statistics compared to other UR units. And limited units, for example, because of cost, that have no ETA on their return, they don't have no estimated time on when they will be returning. So it's kind of maybe if you have FOMO or something, or you think you can't skip this unit because it's limited because you'll regret it. It's gonna be talking about that, just in terms of that, of how good of a unit it should be or could be in that regard. Now the next topic is going to be meta. When we're talking about meta, you have to consider if the unit is going to be viable in terms of top guild versus guild war battles, arena, and possibly PvE guild raids for scoring in the future. I believe JP got it very recently, and there are scoring for guild raids where the more damage you do. It's kind of like trials, but it's going to be for guild raids specifically. And this is going to be something to kind of think about if that's what you want to pursue. Not everyone has the same goals or usability for units, but this is my mindset and reasoning basically, so that it helps it helps generalize how I see a unit for just scoring them in general. And lastly is going to be flexibility, not least, however, obviously, but yeah. Flexibility is what can a unit do in terms of the role and how well. There are many different type of roles. We all know this. It's going to be DPS, there's healing, there's utility, time mages, quicken, or barriers, etc. There's tanks, status elements, AI changes, specifically to how they work and function, elemental typing, because there are obviously elements that are very stronger than others, and you kind of have to work around that, and vision card setups, how easy it is to just use the unit, and then there are map variances, and there's even more, but it's hard to talk about all of that. But yeah, this is what I'm also thinking about when I'm rating a unit. The flexibility is really important because you can't be oh my god, this unit's great and amazing, and maybe they have an insane kit and everything. However, when you put them into actual factual realistic scenarios, in guild versus guild or arena or even the PvE guild raids in the future, maybe they're not the best because they can't be used properly and or they're lacking something. The hardest part about this is going to be specifically AI, because it's kind of like a dice roll, honestly, in terms of AI. Most AI in general kind of work it's pretty consistent on how they work and what their positioning is and all that. However, there are definitely units that have very bad AI, or they have very not well functioning AI, which is kind of hard to involve into a rating of a unit, because theoretically speaking, if the AI was fixed, it would be it would just be way better in rating. But that's why I also don't try to rate too hard based on AI, because you'd have to obviously test it at the min-max scenario. Even at level 120, you don't know what a unit is going to do specifically depending on their AI. Literally, if you turn off and on skills, you don't know what changes are going to happen until you actually do it. So I try not to rate too much on that proportion. And lastly, what is not focused upon in terms of my mindset and what I try to tell in the videos is that potentially it could be for other people that want it, but for me personally is not. So if it's a waifu tier, obviously if people have that type of reason to pull, they will pull. It doesn't matter. I'm not gonna argue with it either. I'm not gonna say it's dumb. If that's a unit you want, pull for it. That's pretty much how it goes. There's not much real explanation for it. If you can find a way to make them work, that is perfect. Also, like a favorite character from a collaboration. Obviously, we're gonna have a lot of Final Fantasy collaborations because this is literally Final Fantasy Brave Exvius, War of Divisions. Literally, we have collaborations left and right. Pull for a unit you want. That's literally what it is. I will say, however, that my perspective and when I'm doing unit reviews will not be telling you to pull based on a waifu tier and or if it's a favorite character of yours personally. I'll be trying to keep it more on what I said earlier in terms of like cost efficiency, meta, and flexibility and such. So that's how I see it in mindset and reasoning for pulls. So this is my perspective on numberings and their meanings. Obviously, a long time ago in my videos, I had ratings out of 10, and I realized like you're never really gonna see a low number in terms out of 10. I mean, at least out of 5, it narrows it down literally by half, so it helps. But even then, most of the units I like reviewed don't even have a rating ever of 1 or 2. Like, it's very, very rare you'll see that, just because those are literally units that even I don't think exist in terms of URs in general of like rarity. So yeah, and because I mostly do only UR unit reviews because it would take a very large amount of time personally, especially with like work and other like real life obligations, to do also like other units outside of URs. So I try not to do that. But yeah, let's go with this first. Obviously these numbers can change, and or like if I give a unit like a 4 out of 5 and then later in the future they might be a 4.5 out of 5 or something like that. I would, if it's a big enough difference, I'll definitely do a reevaluation. However, don't take all my numbers as just like the Bible or something. Like, don't take it as like absolute. It's kind of just how I see it. Like, obviously if you see something different in a unit than I don't, go for it. Like, literally try to like basically just show people that it can happen. Pretty much that's what I'm like. This is basically my perspective and what I'm saying, and I have to really reiterate that because I know there's going to be some people be like, oh, I don't agree with this rating, there's this and that, and then like I'd have to explain it, and like they're like, oh, you're wrong, this is not true. It's like, this is just how I see it in my perspective. But yeah, without that, let's just go through the numbers. So a rating of 1. You will probably never see a unit like this in my reviews. Unless Gumi wants to make literally no money and they want to like throw away the game, we will almost never see a 1 rarity, like a 1 rating unit. Like, I just don't see it coming out. So for 2, since most units outside of URs are just units that are a rating of 2 are way too ambiguous and not really realistic, they always have some big issue that they don't like. You won't see the rating very often because it is very, it's like if 3 out of 5 is a niche rating, 2 is a niche rating of 3 out of 5. So it's even more niche that you will only find like 1 conditional use for it, or like, just for example, like a very small amount of times you would actually ever use the unit. Like, it's just, it won't happen. I would say if I were supposed to give a unit right now for like Ramza or like something like that, because they do not have their EX and their counterpart element Dark is extremely strong, Ramza right now would be a 2 out of 5 in that example because of that specific conditions. However, if he's EX, he got new abilities, all that, it would obviously change, but I'm just giving example numbers here. So yeah, oftentimes you will not see a 2 out of 5, like very, very rarely. Now, a rating of 3, which is actually not too bad of a rating. It's units that are actually not bad, they can shine, but they're gonna be niche in the meta because we're, well, how I see it, we are kind of at the mercy of the meta in terms of flexibility and stat/ability limitations and other factors that can make it make the unit like more better or more weaker. It's gonna be very reliable on those sources, such as like a guild map. Like if like a new lightning unit came out and guild map is like, oh yeah, lightning attack up and lightning units get more HP or something like that, obviously they're gonna do better there. However, the moment the map changes to something else, those units that relied on those bonuses that don't have it anymore are definitely already getting super weaker. So it's like stuff like that. Those were 3 out of 5 units are going to be like, they have a spot in the meta. However, they have to kind of obey by the standards of the meta, which if you played pretty competitively right now, obviously Arena is going to be always the bonus unit with the vision card, and then 2 strong units, usually going to be coupled by Helena, let's be honest. And similarly by Guild War, usually 9 out of 10 times, if not 9.5 or 10 out of 10 times in Guild War, you will almost always see a Helena. And in that regard, you have to obey or respect the fact that Helena is there and what she provides for her team and what she does. That is like a 3 out of 5 unit who will kind of struggle in that department if they can only do a niche thing in that regard. Now, excuse me. A rating of 4 are units that are strong in the role that can provide with varying levels of flexibility on what they can provide, execute, and do. I gave this rating specifically to Glaciella Regalia version because I do believe she's a strong unit, but as we talked about in the previous slide before, cost efficiency, flexibility, all that, Glaciella has some lacking like situations to push her into a 4.5 rating of that tier. Additionally, she also does not have any 100% hit abilities for evasion, yada yada, all that. I don't really want to go into that right now, but yeah, that is why I do believe she's a strong unit. However, she always has to be wary of that one fact. She does not have proper preparations for certain circumstances, such as like very high magic attack resistance type damage, as well as no 100% guarantee hits for evasion types. Examples are basically there, like 4 out of 5 units, very strong. However, they do have their clear weaknesses on where they can be exploited pretty much. Now, moving on. 4.5 plus ratings are going to be units that I don't put very often. However, if I do put it, that means I kind of highly recommend pulling for the unit. Mostly if you want to progress your account for like the best value, in my opinion. Not going to be like, oh, this character is going to be amazing, like just get it, boom, done. It's going to be mostly in terms of cost efficiency, as I said, meta, flexibility, and longevity. And I say that because they have a less chance of being power crept, and you will have a much less like regret or remorse if like you didn't pull for a unit, or for like this unit specifically. Yeah, this will be highly, this rating is going to be like a very good rating for units if you want to decide if you want to pull a unit or not based on what they can do. If like you were on like the fence about it, I would highly recommend it. Other than that, anything that a unit is 4 or lower, 4 out of 5 or lower, I'm not going to say you really have to pull, and I don't think you're going to be missing out too much. However, if I do say there's a 4.5 or higher unit, I do recommend you should pull it, or else you might face some regrets later in the future when you're not able to use the unit and there is not much counterplay against the unit in that regard. Which is also why Helena is kind of in that area too for the value. And lastly, a rating of 5 out of 5, very rare rating. I believe I've only given it to 2 or 3 units, I believe. And what a rating of 5 out of 5 is, it's going to be a top tier unit and what they can do. And there's very, very little counterplay, and it's a very hard matchup. And they're extremely versatile that even if you do find their counter, you will still get insane mileage out of the unit because they will have so much extra on top of what they already have, and they have proper tools to also like counteract their counterplay measures. So it's like they're just a really solid unit. It's very hard to find like clear weaknesses in them, and these units I will say is kind of like a must pull. If a 4.5 was like I highly recommend it, 5 out of 5 is like I really do believe you should pull this unit, or you might regret it in the future, and or you might miss out on using their abilities and their flexibility in just general. And yeah, this is basically my numbers and meanings. I will try to not use 5 out of 5 too often, but I mean obviously if a character really reaches that type of level, we should definitely think about it. And I don't lightly use a 5 out of 5 rating, only because of how strong of a meaning I see it as if I put a unit as a 5 out of 5, which is why I try not to use it too much outside of those 3 units I gave it to before, which I believe were probably Zazanda Unkillable, King Mont, Yuna, I believe. I really debated Helena to a 5 out of 5, but I will say there were some weaknesses she had that I've been abusing in Guild War actually, and taking advantage of it. So yeah, there are ways to work around everything obviously, but there are always certain circumstances that you can't work around them, which is why a 5 out of 5 unit is a 5 out of 5. And here we are for Elemental / Vision card synergies, as well as just like, I know I said I was mostly doing for ratings for units, but I also have been doing some for vision cards, and this is, well, it'll kind of explain a little bit why as well. Like, while units and vision cards themselves can have like crazy good stats, abilities, etc. that they can provide, if they don't have their counterpart of vision cards or the unit that you can use it on are like, they don't synergize as well, it very like cuts down on the usage of the vision card in terms of how good it is, how usable it is, and how effective it is. Because even if you put like a whole bunch of like a combination of vision cards together, and then you face an opponent that you can't make use of any of those vision cards, then you're significantly losing value. It's just not worth it. And this is kind of like to explain, you have to be mindful of the matchups as well as the meta and flexibility of vision cards to see what benefits you can receive from them. And while some vision cards have some very good flexibilities, there are also some that have very poor flexibilities. However, if you work towards their limitations, such as like a mono element vision card, you can definitely make very big benefits and bonuses from that regard. So it's very important to just look over that in general. And here are like 4 sample vision cards I just pulled out just for example, just to like explain. So the Bahamut vision card, it's obviously a light mono vision card. For the person who equips it, you get 15 magic attack type up and HP, which is very good for survivability. It's better than nothing. And for a team, you get 50% magic stat, 8% agility, and 20 single target resistance. Obviously for single target, this is insanely good. Outside of that though, we do have to think about it. What is light elements weak to in general if a light team was to use this vision card, because only light units can really benefit from the vision card? It's going to be dark. And who is the hardest hitting dark units in the game right now? Obviously it's going to be Helena and Dwayne mostly. Obviously there's like Venera and all them, but yeah, specifically Helena. And if we look at the Bahamut vision card, there is nothing that mitigates against dark resistance. Like there's no dark resistance, there's no AoE resistance, there's nothing that really properly mitigates damage from Helena. So this vision card into dark units right now, that is, without any other combination of vision cards, will not actually be the best vision card in that situation. Obviously, however, if you have other vision cards to support it, it will be just fine, but you get the point. Like, it's not going to be helping specifically against Helena. Now, Helena as a vision card, the Black Rose of the battlefield, it is a mixed vision card because it helps like not only a mono element but also like the holder themselves. For herself or Helena, you get 9 accuracy, 10 agility. You get also the Shadow Flare ability, and for the team, you get 15% agility. Sorry, I'm like murmuring words. And then the mono dark element gets 25 accuracy. So yeah, this card overall is just very good for your team if you want to speed them up, as well as providing Helena some accuracy for her team as well, like for herself, and then her dark mono, like any dark elements on the team also boosts this up. So this is a very high value vision card in that regard. Now if we're going to the Encounter of Heroes vision card, it's obviously a fire mono. The person who equips them themselves gets 15 strike resistance, which is a really big amount honestly. And if you're a Rain, King Mont, or Mont, the regular MR version, you get 10% HP as well as an additional 15 accuracy, which is not bad. For the team, you get 50% magic stat, you get 13 accuracy, and 20 slash resistance. This vision card in general is, obviously you can tell already, if you're a magic type that's a fire element that also needs slash resistance, this vision card is insanely good for you. And you can obviously think already off the top of your head, obviously this vision card is for Rain. However, if you think about it, even Glaciella Regalia can use this vision card to very high effective use. So yeah, that's why you gotta really think of what units can use it and what is like relevant about the vision card. The vision card not only gives you strike resistance, which if they have a negative amount and you could push it up a little bit forward, it's nice. It's better than nothing. Most importantly though is that for magic damage dealers, not only do you get the super big fat 50% magic stat bonus, a little bit accuracy helps, especially because there are no 100% hit abilities on Glaciella Regalia and Rain, and you also get the 20 slash resistance, where there's a lot of slashing like type of damage in the game. Slash resistance in general is very, very nice to have. And lastly, we have the Winter Celebration vision card. I forgot what it's called specifically, but if I got it correct, I'm be happy with that. But yeah, this is also a mixed vision card, and I do believe it might be like a little bit underrated compared to some other people, because mostly they'll be using other combinations or just full offense like abilities. And yeah, for this vision card specifically, it's gonna be mixed. It does not specifically need an element. For mace users in general, they get 10% magic stat, they get a height 3 of Holy Knight's Purge ability, which is pretty cool to have. And for the team, you get 20 AoE resistance, and then Mono Water gets 35% dex. Now, AoE resistance is arguably very niche. However, as we discussed about meta and all that talk about flexibility as well, since you're kind of expected, as of right now at least in terms of September 2021, we don't know in the future how much it's going to change. Helena is a staple in almost all teams in terms of very high competitive matches. And in that regard, AoE resistance is insanely effective against her in that regard. However, if you are going to face like a Tifa or a 2B who are using their single target high damage abilities, this vision card is completely useless and trash in that regard. That's why it really depends on your vision card and who you like doing your matchups with. You have to keep mindful of when and what you can mitigate with the vision card, and that's how I am also doing my ratings for vision cards and or units to see what vision cards are good and what can provide enough for a unit as well. So yeah, those are the vision card and elemental card synergies. And here we are at the last slide. I know it's a big wall of text, but I'll try to go over it very quickly. So this is what I, for example, will be looking for in the unit as a checklist example. If we're using King Mont, because I did say I did give him a rating of 5 out of 5, or I think it was like 10 out of 10 or something like that. But anyways, you get the point, 5 out of 5. So first off, his main role, he is a tank. The expectations of a tank, you need to maintain hate and aggro. You need to have, you don't have to have innate hate on a passive or a TP ability, but having those definitely helps significantly. And he has very high, insanely high survivability and damage mitigation. Extra benefits he can provide as a unit in terms of his main job only. This is even talking about like his maiming slash on like Nightblade, sub, all those other stuff. We're not talking about that. We're talking about his main job only. He has an AoE high percentage chance Berserk limit break depending on his faith. He has a single target barrier break for physical damage. He has an AoE slash imperil, and he has a single target disable. And this is all on his main job alone. These are all very highly effective and useful abilities that a tank can provide for his team. Stats, they're going to be very high, and what I mean by this is that if his roles used for tanking, which is going to be like Destiny of Leonis and or like for you Shadowrunner in this regard, he has 5.7k HP, he has 26 defense and 71 agility, and he can choose Shikuchi if he wants for like a little bit less agility, if he wants to even go even further as a tank for more Berserk limit break cheese or other like mobility options. He has it all, literally. High like defense, high HP, high agility, high mobility if he wants to choose. And you're probably thinking, oh, if he has a lot of defense, what about his spirit? While he has 0 spirit and he has poor magic attack resistance because it's 0% obviously, he does in the next option have innate 15 AoE resistance alongside just very strong overall resistances overall in like most matchups. So that's why he has a very high survivability. It's very nice to see it on it. And AoE resistance, I do believe I've said it before, AoE and single target resistance on a unit on either mass ability or passive is very strong depending on how it can be used. And since Mont is a tank, single target AoE or AoE resistance is highly effective on him, which is why he has very high survivability just in general. And this is all his stats before items, espers, vision cards, all of that. He has these as like a base stat if you wanted at level 120. Now let's talk about his weaknesses, because all units always have a weakness somewhere somehow. And his main ones are going to be water and evasion. I did not put strike damage here specifically because I will explain why later. So first off, for mitigating water damage in general as of September 19th, and I have to put this date because obviously anything can change in the future, maybe even Lara Croft because she is rumored to be water gunner, maybe she can absolutely dumpster King Mont. Until we know that, as of right now, the physical hitter, there is only really competitively Tidus that can do anywhere hard enough damage against King Mont, which can easily be mitigated because you could just either stack a whole bunch of slash resistance or you could stack up more defense, which is really easy for King Mont. And this is what it's important because Tidus is only slashing without any slash penetration, which is very hard to get, by the way, unless it's imperiled or like you're getting help from in a unit. Tidus actually can't handle King Mont if King Mont is built against him specifically and or slash or defense in that regard. So he has to think about that for that situation. Now for magical hitters, Elsorel Summer and Mua can actually do insane damage on King Mont. However, all the hard hitting abilities that they have are AoE, and this means they have to go through a mandatory base of 15 AoE resistance before including any items, vision cards, or setups from King Mont. And King Mont, honestly, if he uses the Phoenix Esper in that regard, like, he can not only boost his water resistance, he can also boost his HP as well as strike resistance. And this is why I didn't say earlier that he has a weakness to strike, because Phoenix Esper, you can actually just, if you make it literally a full tank because you just want Mont to tank, that strike resistance you can get up so it's positive amount for King Mont now, because you get up to 25% on Phoenix. So that's why King Mont just has so much versatility in that regard. Obviously, if you do not stack up his AoE resistance against Elsewhere Summer and Mua, they can easily take him out. However, you can expect to see not a one-shot. In that, like, specifically, you will not really see a one-shot ever happen against King Mont. Maybe like a chain hit can happen, but you won't really realistically ever see a one-shot because he just has so much innate survivability and mitigation for that, like, specifically. And yeah, the goal of King Mont is to tank. Obviously, if he goes against Summer, El Sorel, and Mua or Tidus, he's not really going to be there to kill them. He can't really deal too much damage to them if you build as a tank, which is why I'm going off this. He just needs to take the attention away from his team so that he can tank all the damage and his team can kind of clean up everything else, basically. And all the stuff he has weaknesses against water, he does have mitigation options against it. As we said earlier, for Tidus, if he stacks more defense and slash resistance or single target as well, because Tidus' hardest hitting abilities are mostly single target, King Mont can mitigate it. Against El Sorel, Summer, and Mua, not only can he raise his magic attack resistance with like the Fenrir, Esper, and a vision card, or even like Knight's Armor to raise magic attack resistance, because they have very poor magic attack resistance penetration. El Sorel, Summer can use her strike, but you know what I mean, like, Phoenix can still like provide for that. He can get tanky in what he wants to do. Like, if you can specifically put something on him to make him tanky, he can do it. Like 99% times, like out of 100, he will be doing it. Like, he can tank it. Like right now, I even have him in the setup for Guild War to tank Helena and Dwayne specifically, and he does survive. He takes about 3,000 damage from Helena's limit break, and he has 10,000 HP because I just built him to be only tanky with super high AoE resistance, because he already has high base AoE resistance. And that's why a vision card and Esper flexibility is so important in that regard. It really helps and provides for a unit, and if they're able to make very good use of it, this is the example of a unit you'll get a 5 out of 5 unit. And this is why I'm saying against the water, I'm not even scared of it as King Mont if I have the proper setup, as well as if I have another DPS that can take care of the water units. For example, if there was a water team and I had King Mont and I had to hit that team, I would hope my DPS unit on my team is Cloud, so it can easily clean up house against them, and King Mont will maybe tank 1 or 2 turns at least, but it'll give him a decent amount of time for the rest of my team to DPS pretty much. Now for evasions, while evasion units can make it like possible that King Mont could never actually hit them, he actually is capable of reaching a very high accuracy values because of his Nightblade passive, as well as he innately has a decent amount of high luck, especially if he uses his Shadowrunner passive. So it really gives him something to mitigate evasion, but nonetheless, he doesn't have 100% hit ability, so he can still miss. However, as we said previously, if he is just going to be a tank and you're not using him as a bruiser, he doesn't actually have to even hit the evasion units. He just has to keep hate on himself so that the evasion units are just hitting him. So outside specifically Zazan, Katone, Venera, 2B and Tifa have very actually strong physical strike type abilities that can harm King Mont pretty heavily unless he uses the Phoenix Esper. You can just use the Phoenix Esper then. Raise up that defense as well as that strike resistance. 2B and Tifa cannot actually collectively one turn King Mont, even in a chain, if you build him properly. The emphasis is that King Mont has to be built properly because he has the tools to do so. He has all that flexibility and he has general like survivability as well. This is why I have King Mont's rating as a 5 out of 5. He is still, in my opinion, still the undisputed best tank in the game with very good stats and flexibility. And he even has a berserk status cheeses to like literally sway a battle completely to one side instantly if you wanted. And like he can even he has proper mitigation tools even against his elemental weaknesses of water types. And he's been out for 4 months and he has still no sign yet of a hard counter unit to take him out, like through his heavy mitigation options. So a well-built King Mont is extremely hard to take out, and before his teammates like it's possible for King Mont to tank anything and everything and have his teammates have enough time to kind of clean up on the other end. It all depends on the build for him because he has the tools, ability, and accessibilities for it, and that flexibility, which is important to note. However, I will say notes, any future water units that want to kind of hard counter King Mont, even through his mitigation options, because obviously it has to be a water unit if they have if they have the elemental advantage. Obviously, Helena can do a lot of damage to him if he's not properly mitigating it, but you get the point. In terms of elemental differences, that unit not only has to be magic damage in general, not necessarily magic attack damage, but magic damage in general because it's hitting his spirit stat. It has to be single target as well for an extremely hard hitting ability, and it will have a decent chance of one-shotting him completely. It has to have those conditional situations before anything else. And even before that, maybe you can kill King Mont in one hit. However, what if that unit that you're using to kill King Mont hit in one hit, his other two teammates are your direct counter for that unit? And what I mean by that is that, for example, you never really want to bring ice units against King Mont, just in general. And you're like, oh, if there is, I should bring a water unit. But we just talked about the water damage mitigation. So if King Mont is mitigating damage against water right now, and you face him with the ice team with a few water units to take him out, it's not actually going to look as clean as you might think it might be. But yeah, I hope this kind of makes sense for in terms of an example of a checklist unit and my rating. I'll still be continuing to do them, as well as I have Lasso and Engelbert to still do. I've been really busy, so I haven't been able to get to them, but I will try to do it before Lara Croft comes out this Wednesday for reset. So yeah, outside of that, if you watched till the end, thank you for watching, and I'll try to post a little bit more videos, especially during like a dead week, because right now it feels kind of dead because we did get the raid rerun, which is a lot of people are going to be busy with, as well as trials. But yeah, until then, until the next video, peace out.